There is a kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with how much you have done. You have worked hard. You have planned carefully. You have tried to anticipate the variables and prepared for most of them. And still, something has gone wrong, a decision made by someone else. A circumstance you did not choose. An outcome that did not match the effort you put into it. And so you do what most people do. You argue with it in your mind. You replay the moments that led here. You try over and over to make the reality in front of you something other than what it is. This is not problem solving. It is a specific kind of suffering that almost every person knows. The suffering of fighting something that cannot be changed. And yet it is so habitual that most people do not notice. They are doing it until the exhaustion has already accumulated. There is a Japanese expression that names this moment and offers something different. The word is shoganai. Pronounced shoganai, it translates literally as it cannot be helped. It is one of the most common phrases in everyday Japanese life. Said after rain delays, an outdoor event after a long wait that was unavoidable, after a plan falls apart, for reasons entirely outside anyone's control. But it is more than a phrase. It is an orientation, a specific way of turning toward the unchangeable. That is neither defeat nor suppression, but a deliberate release. Shoganai does not mean I don't care. It does not mean nothing matters. It does not mean I accept whatever happens without question or response. It means this cannot be changed, and I am going to stop spending my energy trying to change it. That is a much harder thing than it sounds. Most cultures, especially those shaped by the idea that determination alone can reshape any outcome, treat acceptance as weakness. To accept a bad situation is to admit failure. To say there is nothing to be done is to give up. And so people learn to keep fighting, even when the fight is entirely internal, even when the only thing being consumed is the energy they need for everything else. Japan developed a different cultural relationship with this particular kind of friction, in part because the geography demanded it. Japan is one of the most seismically active places on Earth. Typhoons arrive seasonally. Floods, fires, and the ordinary collapse of carefully made plans have been facts of Japanese life. For as long as records have been kept, what you built could be gone. What you planned might not arrive. In that context, releasing what cannot be changed was not a philosophical luxury. It was a practical necessity. The person who remained locked in grief or anger after a catastrophe lost something more than time. They lost the capacity to act. Shoganai is what you say when you recognize the boundary. This is on the other side, and everything I have is needed over here. There is a distinction that matters. Shoganai is not the same as resignation. Resignation says things are bad and they will stay bad, and I have no role in what happens next. Resignation removes you from the equation entirely. Shoganai says something different. It says I have looked at this clearly. I have understood what is within my reach and what is not. And I am releasing the part that is not because I do not care about it, but because holding it is costing more than I can afford. The difference is directional. Resignation looks down. Shoganai looks forward. When a Japanese worker learns their project has been canceled, a decision made above them, one they had no part in, and no ability to prevent, the Shoganai response is not to collapse in frustration or spend days replaying why the decision was wrong. It is to say, with genuine acknowledgement, this happened. I could not have stopped it. Where do I go from here? That shift from the unchangeable past to the actionable present is the entire point. There is a cultural story, familiar in many parts of the world, that goes something like this. Circumstances can always be changed if you want it badly enough. And when things go wrong despite the effort, the story says you did not want it enough. You did not try hard enough. The failure was personal. This leaves people suspended between two things they cannot reconcile. Unable to accept what happened because acceptance feels like admitting fault. Unable to change it because it is already in the past. And so they remain between the two, spending enormous energy on something that cannot be moved. Shoganai offers a different account. Sometimes things go wrong because that is what things do. Not because you failed, but because circumstances are, and have always been, partly outside your control. That is not a defeat. It is a fact. And recognizing it clearly rather than arguing with it indefinitely is not weakness. It is the beginning of the only kind of response that can actually produce something. To practice Shoganai is not to feel nothing. People sometimes confuse acceptance with emotional flatness. The idea that if you truly come to terms with something, the feeling disappears. But the feeling is not the problem. The fighting is the problem. You can grieve a loss and still practice Shoganai. You can be genuinely disappointed that something did not work out, and still at some point, turn toward what can be done. The grief is appropriate. The grief is part of the acknowledgement this mattered. It is gone, that is real. What Shoganai interrupts is not the feeling, but the argument. The loop of if only and should have, and why did this happen? The attempt to relitigate reality until it agrees to be something different. There is a moment in most experiences of genuine difficulty when the energy spent fighting starts to exceed what the fight can possibly produce. The situation is not going to change. The person is not coming back. The decision has already been made, and yet something continues to pour effort into a direction where nothing is moving. Shoganai names that moment not as a resignation, but as a recognition. There is nothing more to get from fighting this. The energy belongs somewhere else. What happens to that energy when it is released is what makes Shoganai practically powerful. Difficulty demands response. Something has gone wrong, a relationship, a job, a health diagnosis, a plan. There are things within reach that could address it, and there are things outside reach that cannot be addressed by anything you do. The person who cannot practice. Shoganai spends much of their available energy on the second category, thinking about what cannot be changed, arguing with decisions already made, managing the ongoing cost of not accepting a reality that has not asked for permission. The person who can practice Shoganai releases that category. What gets freed is not a small amount. In major difficulties, it is often the majority of what a person had available. That energy, turned toward what can actually be addressed, is frequently the difference between recovery and the long struggle to stay in place. This is why Shoganai is not defeat. It is the recognition that resources are limited, and reality is not always negotiable, and the decision to put those resources where something can actually be done. Shoganai extends into the smaller difficulties too, not just catastrophes. The delayed train, the project stalled by someone else's decision, the cold that arrived at the worst time. The small, everyday experiences of being subject to circumstances you did not choose. In those moments, the habit is the same look at what cannot be changed. Say silently or aloud, Shoganai. Move your attention forward. The compound effect applied across hundreds of small moments is significant. Less friction accumulated each day. More still available to give to the things that matter. What Shoganai asks of you is not indifference. It is clarity, the ability to see what is within your reach and what is not, and to direct your effort accordingly. It requires continuous discernment, not catastrophizing what is merely inconvenient, not avoiding what can actually be addressed. The Buddhist thread that runs through much of Japanese philosophy offers a frame for this. Suffering arises, not from difficulty, but from resistance to what is. The difficulty itself is often finite. The resistance can extend indefinitely. Shoganai is not Buddhism. It is a cultural expression that drew from something much older. But the insight is similar the moment you stop fighting what cannot be changed. The room to respond to what can be changed opens up. That opening is not always obvious in the middle of difficulty, but it is there. Begin with the smallest version. The next time something goes wrong that cannot be undone, a message sent before you meant to send it, a meeting canceled at the last minute, weather that did not cooperate. Find the moment when you notice the internal argument beginning, and instead of continuing it, say Shoganai, not as dismissal, as recognition. This happened. It cannot be changed. I am going to put my attention where it can do something. The larger applications, the losses that require grief, the setbacks that require real recalibration will take longer. Shoganai does not resolve those quickly, but the habit, practiced first on small things, becomes available for larger ones. And what accumulates over time is not indifference to difficulty. It is something quieter and more durable. The ability to move through what cannot be helped without being stopped by it. If this way of thinking stayed with you, follow for more. There is something here every week. Some things cannot be helped, but what you do next always can.